All right, it's time to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, happyhippo.com. So if you guys haven't checked this out, you got to go to happyhippo.com because they have some of the highest quality kratom products that I've ever come across. And if you guys aren't familiar with what kratom is, it's an herbal substance that has many different uses, everything from a balanced mind to energy. It can help you relax. And my wife and I, over the last couple of weeks, have tried out some of their products. And I have to say, it has improved her sleep specifically. She's very anxious and her mind runs at night, and it has helped her fall asleep and stay asleep. She actually was using one of the powders that comes in a pouch from Happy Hippo and just dropped it into her water, and off she went, and she was just she was very happy. Let me just put it that way. And so myself, during the workday, if you guys didn't know, I have a big boy job. I work in contract management, and I need that balance. I need the energy during the day, and they have something called Hyper Hippo and an energy shot. And those energy shots come in those little tiny bottles. You guys are familiar with it from other brands that use that type of packaging, but there's nothing like this. All right. This energy shot, I take it, easy to take, and within minutes, I feel the effects. There's no massive crash after I take it either, which is a huge deal, right? How many energy drinks have you taken and coffee have you drank throughout the day that just leads to the massive crash? Well, this doesn't. And it's an all natural herb. And I'm telling you right now, it will help you get through your day. It can help you relax depending on the type of product you're looking for. Happy Hippo delivers. And guess what? Right now, if you have an order of 200 or more, you can get free next day FedEx shipping. And also their stuff tastes great. So check out happyhippo.com. Support the WWE podcast and Happy Hippo. And do yourself a favor as well, guys. I'm telling you right now, if it can help my wife go to sleep, for somebody as anxious as she is and as somebody that needs as much energy as I do during the day to do this podcast and to do my job during the day, check out happyhippo.com, whether you're trying to relax or whether you need energy or balance during the day. Happyhippo.com.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me. Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my honor. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. I have a special guest tonight, a former patron and now back to current patron of the show, Ian. You guys may remember him from about a year ago. He was on the show and covering a show with me, but now he's back and very excited to have him back. A dad of a 1-year-old, so welcome to the party of sleepless nights, but also the most rewarding thing ever. Ian, welcome back, my friend. How you doing?
Good, man. It's good to be back.
All right. Well, you guys may remember Ian, and he recently came back in the mailbag, and so check that out if you haven't heard his thoughts. But since we have you on the show, and you don't have to type in your thoughts, what are your thoughts? But just generally, I mean, it doesn't have to be about Raw specifically. We're going to jump into that in just a minute or two, but I want to get your take on how things have been going in WWE. Are you enjoying the top storylines? Are there big things you like, big things you don't like? Just kind of give me your overall mindset on the product right now.
Yeah, so, I mean, it can be hot and cold sometimes. So, I mean, I definitely, when looking back, obviously the number one thing that we can go through is the Roman Reigns era. I don't know what to go heads or tails with that. I mean, there's been some credible storytelling, but I think with him, I think they're missing out on a lot of stuff that he can do. Where as a heel, I get really frustrated with someone that's as dominant as he is, and he rarely has a match where he can win solely on himself, on his talent. And I get it, heels will cheat and do whatever they can to keep the title, but I think some of the best heels in the history have always had some some matches where they show their dominance. You know, as recent right now that I think has an incredible run going on is Gunther. I think in his early days as Intercontinental Champion, you know, he was definitely using his Imperium staff to help him win, but now he's not, you know, messing around anymore. He's completely dominating the game and showing that he can, you know, compete with anybody and not really need to cheat to win anymore. You know, and then if we're kind of switching over to like, you know, a Raw side where, you know, we'll talk about today, but you know, Seth, I just don't think he gets enough credit. I think for me, I'm always the number one Seth fan. I would take him over Roman any day, because for me, I definitely look back. I kind of look at Seth and Roman as like today's type of, you know, Shawn Michaels and Triple H. So when I think of those two, like HBK, he can wrestle, he can do a story like nobody else, and he never needs a title to create a story. He doesn't need to be the champion to make himself relevant. I kind of felt like that was going on with Triple H a lot, and that's how it is with today's time. You know, Seth, yes, he's the current champion and has been champion before, but some of his most memorable matches and storytelling, he didn't even have a title, and there was no title involved, where Roman, you know, he's been most relevant in the last 3 years, and he's needed the title. So I just think, you know, in the future, I just hope that they do something with Seth and Roman together. You know, I don't think it'll be WrestleMania 40, but they need to start teasing something for those guys together, because their prime years are, you know, limited.
I keep harping on that. I mean, I will, you know, I'm not going to get off that train. I'm not going to get off beating that drum that Seth and Roman need to have a proper program. It's really criminal that they haven't. I know that they've done here and there and, you know, drips and drabs, but I feel like it's been an eternity, if not ever, that they've had a proper program. What do I mean by that? Multi-month. I don't mean just a one-off. I don't mean an exhibition match like they had at the Rumble in 22. I'm talking about a true a program from, you know, January to WrestleMania, or like, you know, April to July, like April to SummerSlam, something like that. And it's just been, it's criminal. And given the history and how well they work together and all the things that they have been through together, I think it would be amazing. And I actually would advocate for him to be the one to take it off Roman if and when that happens. All right, well, let's jump into Raw. We could talk about ancillary things, you know, for another 2 hours, but I want to jump into Raw as that's the focus here. At the beginning of Raw, we had the Judgment Day come out, and Rhea said that things haven't really been going their way, and that Priest said Balor should have walked out of SummerSlam as the champion. It seems as if all is well. There was some tension, but JD McDonagh, I keep saying PJ. For those out there, I don't know why the hell I keep saying PJ McDonagh. I have no clue. I don't even know a PJ, but it's JD. I will recognize that. So he's coming out and really speaking on behalf of Finn Balor, and he ended up giving a message to the Judgment Day, and the Judgment Day wanted to give him a message back. Before I get too much more into it, what did you think about just your feelings on JD McDonagh being involved, the tension right now that we saw setting up at the beginning of Raw with Finn and Damian that continues to look like it's good, and then it's not, and then it's good, and then it's not? Yeah,
I mean, I like the kind of thought of having a new addition to the Judgment Day, because for me personally, I think the Judgment Day is getting kind of stale. You know, even having, you know, Rhea as the women's champion, and you know, Priest having the Money in the Bank, and Dominic having the North American title. It's just, I don't know. They don't. I mean, I think I just look back at other people that are together and they're more dominant. Like, these guys don't really scare me much. They don't seem like they're that much dominant in Raw. And they just feel kind of stale. So, you know, bringing JD into this, it kind of spices up the storyline to figure out, all right, is Finn going to be the one to be kicked out, or is Damian going to go his separate way and he's going to be the addition? Because, you know, it's interesting, because and it's a good way to bring up new talent too.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I'm enjoying this. I mean, for those that haven't seen JD yet or seen him in a big role, this was easily JD McDonagh's biggest night of his career to date. You know, in a main event storyline, multiple segments. I think he delivered well. Obviously he had a major impact at the end of Raw. We'll get to that. But my question to you is, and I'm getting mixed signals or mixed messages from everyone out there. I feel like it's also kind of criminal that Rhea Ripley has not defended her championship against a real opponent. When I say real, it's no disrespect to Zelina Vega or to Natalya. I know that she's injured, quote unquote, Raquel Rodriguez, and that hasn't happened yet. So she has not had an opponent since WrestleMania. I mean, it's been over 4 months, and they have not delivered a real opponent for Rhea Ripley to have a real program with. I don't know. Maybe no, you don't have a problem with this. Some people out there don't. I think it's a little bit kind of like, I don't know if it's lazy or storytelling or if it's just they feel like they don't need to. But I'm just generally frustrated. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because I've actually gotten very frustrated with it, and it's getting to the point where I'm almost looking at Rhea and I'm getting mad at her, but I know she's not the one behind it saying, yeah, I don't want to defend it. Like I'm cool with my character just kind of like just hanging around. Like I'm sure she wants to like show off her skills because she's finally like showing off like her main event status where like, you know, she kind of lacked that a couple years ago when she beat Asuka for the Raw title a couple WrestleManias ago. But it's just it's criminal because it's like, you know, I feel like ever since they made this whole change with the belts, it's been kind of lacking. Like even with the one on SmackDown, it's you know, it's the same wrestlers, the same 3 or 4 wrestlers in the main event. The storytelling is kind of garbage. And, you know, with Rhea, I really like, that's why I'm not a big fan of the Judgment Day because I really think that's holding her back. She is good on her own. You know, if she wants to maybe keep Dominic with her for a little bit, you know, that's cool. Like sort of have like the Eddie Guerrero China relationship, but it's just, it's really, it's not good for her status. I think she needs to be on her own because being in the Judgment Day, it's kind of awkward when she sort of has a rivalry or starts a program with somebody. Because even when Raquel came out, it was like, all right, what is the rest of the Judgment Day members doing? Are they're just chilling in the background, letting her fight? Like it's just awkward, and I just think she needs to go on her own.
Yeah, I'm with you on her maybe breaking away, although some would argue that Rhea Ripley's the heart of the Judgment Day. You know, Triple H had a press conference after the pay-per-view last week and said that, you know, the real is no real leader of the Judgment Day. You can make a case outside of Dom that anyone is the leader of the Judgment Day. And it's kind of true. I mean, they don't have a true established leader like the Bloodline did. But you know, Rhea does feel like she is a big part of the Judgment Day, and WWE would have to kind of weigh their options and the pros and cons of her splitting off. Is it really worth it? You know, Judgment Day, it does feel stale, but they are a main focal point of Raw. Like they can, and now they're continuing to grow. You know, JD being included on things and potentially being added or replacing Finn, as Finn I think is going to play the babyface here and get kicked out. But so the group is growing and evolving. So I don't think it's going anywhere. But if she does split, I think her and Dom need to stay together. They have a chemistry that you just can't manufacture on paper. It's unexpected. It's just kind of fits. They both feed off each other. When you see one, you expect to see the other. When you don't, it feels weird. I have no problem with them being an on-screen couple, even though she actually just got engaged to Buddy Murphy, who is now in AEW. But I mean, of course, on air. So I don't know. I'm cool if they do that, but I do want her to be associated with Dom, just because that's a chemistry that is it's a rare combination to see on TV.
Yeah, it is. And like, you know, I was saying to you before, just watching some of the nostalgia of like the early 2000s PLE and everything, just seeing Eddie in China. It's kind of cool seeing this dynamic kind of be rebranded in this day and age. But, you know, like you said, you know, she could be considered the leader of it. And it's kind of baffling for her to be the leader and not really show her championship, or at least have a program where she's not even defending the title, just wrestling. Like, I mean, maybe there's some low key injuries that she needs to be healed up on, and they're just not making it as public as they used to.
Or have the women talk about it. It's kind of like with Roman's title. None of the men on the SmackDown side and none of the women on the Raw side are talking about challenging for the championship. Everyone's just kind of doing their own thing and turning a blind eye to the top belt, and it's weird to do. And I know they're doing it because they have to, because they don't, for whatever reason, feel they have a real opponent for Rhea. But all right, let's continue on though. Speaking of Rhea, she did tell she did tell McDonagh that they don't take orders from anyone, as JD told them to worry about the real targets of Cody and Sammy. They don't take orders from people who are not part of the Judgment Day. Dom tried to speak. Of course, he gets booed out of the building. And JD McDonagh said he meant no disrespect. He was delivering a message. But Sammy comes out and attacked McDonagh and got the better of McDonagh, climbed to the ring apron, got dropped down and grabbed McDonagh, who pulled Zayn's injured elbow into the ring post and then ran Zayn into the ring post again, and Zayn was selling his elbow. Everyone has seen the picture now. It's just my God, I thought he was going to be out for months based on how that damn thing looked. So what did you think about the opening segment here before we get to Sami Zayn versus JD McDonagh? That was the first match.
Yeah, I think Sammy definitely saved it a little bit because, besides, JD kind of coming in, there wasn't too much progress in the storytelling with Finn. If he's not coming out with the whole Judgment Day, I understand they kind of mended everything later on in the show, but it's just that's more than one occasion that Finn has kind of ditched the Judgment Day and just kind of has been doing their own thing. But having Sammy come out, it's interesting. He's doing the best he can, but speaking of I think it's a whole theme in WWE where there's no title defenses, because when's the last time they defended their title? At this point they might as well just drop it, because I'd like to at least see some other tag team win it and have the tag team division actually go somewhere. As much as I love KO and Sammy together, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. And the tag team for that major victory that they had at WrestleMania 39 against the Usos, and how much that was built up, and what it felt like and what it meant at that moment, it felt big. And then ever since then, the titles and the value of the titles have felt like they've gone off a cliff, much like the U.S. title, a bit of a different situation. But since WrestleMania, both championships have felt like they've gotten not the attention they deserve. And especially with Kevin and Sammy holding those belts, you'd imagine that they'd be more of a focal point, but they're not. And I think that at some point in the near future, whenever Kevin is healed and they defend the belts, I think they'll probably drop it in short order, whether it's to the Indus, wherever they are, or another heel team. Maybe it's Riddle and Drew McIntyre, who are a newly formed team. We'll see. But speaking of the first match, as I quickly mentioned, Sammy and JD McDonagh, what did you think of this matchup?
Yeah, it was a decent opening match to have. JD kind of show some of his skills in the opening round, but it's Sami Zayn. I think it's just a continued reminder that I don't know if they've missed their spot with Sami, of him being a world champ, but especially seeing him in a singles match, it brings back when he was facing Roman, and it's just what he could really do as a singles competitor. It makes me hope that there is still some hope for him in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And I had no issues with the match. Technically sound. It was a way to introduce JD to the more mainstream audience. Those that still don't know who he is now do know. And he's pledged his allegiance, so to speak, to the Judgment Day. And it was weird to see Sami Zayn get the victory here, though, given the fact that they're trying to establish this guy. I was a bit surprised at the outcome. There was no title on the line. It was, to me, more of just a way to introduce JD, make him look good, give him a victory. And they didn't do that. Sami Zayn won here, so that surprised me a bit. I wasn't annoyed by it, just more a bit surprised. So yeah, no issues here. It's about 12 minutes. And of course, JD definitely made up for things at the end of the show. So, all right. Well, I want to continue on here, given that Raw is a 3-hour show here. Yeah. So we got Imperium coming out, and then they had a video package. But in between that, Cody Rhodes was interviewed. I'm sorry, who cares? It's just there wasn't a whole lot said there, I have to say. And then Gunther was on top of the broadcast table. And we got the recap of Gable winning the Fatal 4-Way last week to earn an IC title shot. And he understands why Winnipeg is called the armpit of Canada, just trying to get some heat. And then we got Gable interrupting with a loud shoosh. He came out on stage with Otis and Maxine, and Gable recalled lasting 5 minutes with Gunther and said that now Gunther is on the clock because he's just weeks away from becoming the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. So before we get to anything else, what did you think about this? And we had Kaiser, I don't know if he was hitting on Maxine Dupree or just, trying to get her to come over to the dark side. He ends up, eating a slap from Maxine. But what did you think about kind of setting the table for this match?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of cool, like how, like, slowly Chad Gable, like, he just all of a sudden got a push, because, like, I feel like it was just a couple weeks ago where, like, that team was just eating loss after loss, and he was just sort of a glorified stuntman, and it was just, now I always knew he had really good skills, and he's a very athletic wrestler, and it's not, I wouldn't say a poor man's Kurt Angle, but I think he's just like a smaller version of Kurt. Like, he's very athletic, and he deserves a singles push. So just the only thing is, just because of how WWE is just with all the record books nowadays, I'm just like, I'm happy for Gable, but it's just like, I'm just waiting for the record breaking day or whatever for the title. And then after that, then I can kind of consider him a serious threat to the title, because he's not going to beat him unless, it's past the record mark after Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah, I don't care who comes out of retirement. I don't care, if Andre the Giant rises from the grave. Like, Gunther's not losing the championship. It's not happening. WWE made a big stink about the record. He's going to break it. There's no doubt about it, and there's no reason to ever take it off him until he passes the record, and he will. So that said, it does unfortunately kind of spoil the outcome here of Gable and Gunther, that admittedly they're putting more attention on the build than I expected them to, and that's a good thing. I think, as you mentioned, Gable is a guy that I don't think gets the respect that he deserves, and the amount of losing that he did with Otis over the last year is really just boggles the mind with how many times I would like to just see that the last year, just specifically what the win-loss record was for Gable and Otis as singles or a team. It's got to be just horrendous. And then he gets thrust into the Intercontinental Championship picture, and he has showcased his athleticism. I absolutely love his finish. It's a beautiful looking German suplex. It's like I forget what they call it, but it's a stalling German suplex. I love it. It's a perfect maneuver for an actual Olympian. He had the match here with Giovanni Vinci that lasted about 5 minutes, and you knew that Gable, he had to win this, and he did. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on Gable beating Giovanni Vinci.
No, I think it was just kind of like a moral victory. I think, not to be a bearer of bad news, I think everyone knows he's going to lose next week. So it's just nice to see him show his skills and what he can do. And, I think he could be a champion in the future, but, like we said before, with all the records, they're not gonna touch that until he breaks it. But, good for Gable. He's been through a lot of hardship. I mean, I remember watching him when he was Shorty G, and that was brutal to watch. So just seeing him now, where even his trademark shush and all that stuff, at first when he was doing that, it was just kind of annoying and corny and out for the kids. But like now, it's like a lot of the fans are loving it because he's sort of a baby face, and of course with it being a business, they know that that's gonna rise up on merchandise sales too.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I would like to see what a serious version of Chad Gable looks like, too. I mean, they've made him a comedy character for the better part of his career, whether he was a heel or babyface, Shorty G or just regular Chad Gable or with Otis. He's always had that comedy element. And admittedly, him and Otis have a nice chemistry, and they do have that rare trait of successful comedy in wrestling. That's a difficult thing to do and execute properly. And that's great, but we've seen that version of him. I want to know what a serious Chad Gable looks like. I think a serious Chad Gable, maybe after the loss to Gunther, would be a nice change for him, and maybe they as a team go off on a run, or it's a singles run for Gable. But I just think he's too talented. I know his height isn't helping him. Vince McMahon, we all know, has an affinity for 6'5" guys, and Gable's about a foot off that. We understand that, but with Vince not in charge anymore, we'll see if the powers that be decide to say, you know what, he's clearly got it. He's a former Olympian. He's shown what he can do in the ring. He's shown the comedy side of him. Let's see what a real run could look like if he's serious. So, but. Moving on to the next match, which is related. We have a Gunther versus Otis match, non-title. This match also was pretty quick in about 5 minutes as Gunther beats Otis. And then after the match, Gable came in, ducked a clothesline, and hit Gunther with a German suplex. And the Imperium retreated up the ramp. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on Gunther and Otis or really any of this storyline as a whole.
No, not too much. I mean, I always I'm always interested when I know like how the finish is going to happen, and I think, okay, Gunther, his finish is that power bomb. I'm like, all right, how is he going to do that with Otis? And I'm always curious. Like, it's like I forget how heavy Otis really is, but then I'm kind of undermining, and I feel like Gunther could have lifted him bigger, but maybe I just think that a lot of these wrestlers, just because they're tall, that they can just throw up anybody. But maybe I'm used to the video games and stuff like that. But no, I thought it was a decent match. I think they kind of messed up on the worm, because as he was kind of coming up, the timing with Gunther while he does that kind of like running kick was kind of messed up. But it was a nice little short match.
I would say, though, they made up for it with the execution of the powerbomb, given Otis's size. I mean, and just, looking at the bar is kind of low with the size of Otis, and being able to lift him up for a powerbomb at all. I know that obviously Otis helps, but still, I mean, for Gunther to execute it the way he did, I think that they're bringing back also a maneuver that should be a finish anyway, which I like. A powerbomb used to be a finish, and then it became a move everyone did, kind of like the super kick with Shawn Michaels, that everyone does it now, and it's ridiculous. But anyway, reestablishing maneuvers that used to be finishes that became commonplace that are now finishes again is good. So, all right, well, let's move on. We got Riddle. Well, we got a little bit more of hyping Cody versus Balor for the main event here. We had a McDonagh segment with Priest telling him that they were handling the Judgment Day business, and Balor stepped in and ended up telling McDonagh he'll talk to him later. Again, continuing to show what's happening here with the dynamic of JD being that proverbial wedge between Finn and Damian that I think will ultimately lead to their demise. But we got... Eventually, Riddle, or rather Drew, who was being interviewed, asked him, what's next for Drew, and Riddle quickly interrupted and said that we're going to have a tag team match if you're interested, and if I find a partner, I want to challenge the Viking Raiders. And McIntyre said, if you didn't find a partner, I'll consider it. And Riddle said that, so you're saying there's a chance, from, I guess, Dumb and Dumber. And so we knew that we were going to have a Drew McIntyre versus and Riddle versus the Viking Raiders. I'll stop there. What did you think about that and the actual match itself with Riddle and McIntyre versus the Viking Raiders? All right, it's time to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, happyhippo.com. So if you guys haven't checked this out, you got to go to happyhippo.com, because they have some of the highest quality kratom products that I've ever come across. And if you guys aren't familiar with what kratom is, it's an herbal substance that has many different uses, everything from a balanced mind to energy. It can help you relax. And my wife and I, over the last couple of weeks, have tried out some of their products, and I have to say it has improved her sleep specifically. She's very anxious and her mind runs at night, and it has helped her fall asleep and stay asleep. She actually was using one of the powders that comes in a pouch from Happy Hippo, and just dropped it into her water, and off she went, and she was just she was very happy. Let me just put it that way. And so myself, during the workday, if you guys didn't know, I have a big boy job. I work in contract management, and I need that balance. I need the energy during the day. And they have something called Hyper Hippo and an energy shot. And those energy shots come in those little tiny bottles. You guys are familiar with it from other brands that use that type of packaging, but there's nothing like this. All right. This energy shot, I take it, easy to take, and within minutes, I feel the effects. There's no massive crash after I take it either, which is a huge deal, right? How many energy drinks have you taken and coffee have you drank throughout the day that just leads to the massive crash? Well, this doesn't, and it's an all-natural herb, and I'm telling you right now, it will help you get through your day. It can help you relax, depending on the type of product you're looking for. Happy Hippo delivers, and guess what? Right now, if you have an order of 200 or more, you can get free next day FedEx shipping. And also their stuff tastes great. So check out happyhippo.com. Support the WWE podcast and Happy Hippo. And do yourself a favor as well, guys. I'm telling you right now, if it can help my wife go to sleep, for somebody as anxious as she is and as somebody that needs as much energy as I do during the day to do this podcast and to do my job during the day, check out happyhippo.com, whether you're trying to relax or whether you need energy or balance during the day. Happyhippo.com.
I don't know what is in Drew McIntyre's contract, but it must be a hefty payday, because like I don't know how he can continually just be a babyface like this and just do meaningless matches like this. I mean, I know you're thinking it too. He needs to be a heel, and I have loved Drew as a babyface. He held together during COVID. He still needs a championship win in front of a crowd. The WWE ownership, they need that. He owes it to the fan base. And I just I don't know, when I saw him with Riddle, it just felt like a comedy act, and I don't know why it just immediately brought me back to I think he had a match, tag team match, when Jeff Hardy was still there, and they're both wearing like top hats, and they were both doing like the I don't know, some dorky dance on SmackDown, and I'm just like, okay, this is where his life is. And I don't know. I mean, I was waiting for McIntyre to turn him at the end or something, but it just doesn't make any sense right now. Maybe they're playing the long game for this heel turn.
You're right. This made an even stronger case for me and those that believe Drew should be a heel during this segment in this matchup. I really hope that McIntyre and Riddle aren't going to become a thing. I hope this is a very short-lived thing, because I feel like Riddle, again, no disrespect to him, but he's a comedy act, but also a legitimate in-ring wrestler that is never going to be at the top of the card, at least at this point. And McIntyre belongs at the top of the card, but belongs in a heel way, because, like you said, at this point, looking at Drew, people have had a long time to love him, and they have. I think most people have a hell of a lot of respect for Drew, but he has been handcuffed with a lot of being a babyface. I think is more difficult than being a heel, because you have to make sure people cheer you and not boo you. Booing you is, I think, an easier emotion to get out of people than having them actually verbally affirm you. But that said, I think Drew right now would really benefit from a heel turn, just because not only for his own career and reviving his own career. Not that he's in trouble, but it feels like it's right. It's the right time. But also Seth Rollins for someone to work with. I mean, you have Shinsuke. We'll get into that. But like Shinsuke, isn't gonna win. It's just it's a stepping stone program for Seth to get to that next big heel, and that next big heel is who? I mean, what we have Damian Priest floating around, but Finn is probably going to turn babyface soon. There goes that, and then you have who's left? Who's left to face Seth Rollins on Raw? I mean, it has to be Drew McIntyre turning heel, and he should. So I don't know, but to this match, you knew that Riddle and McIntyre were going to win, because the Viking Raiders have been on a absolute descent over the last several months. So I didn't have any issue with the match and Drew getting the Claymore and getting the victory.
Yeah, and it's funny, because I think I remember hearing Riddle say like, oh, the Viking Raiders like had an open challenge and I accepted it, and I'm just thinking to myself, Viking Raiders, you guys haven't been relevant or a threat like in, I don't know, maybe since that first promo when you came back from NXT. Like, it's kind of a joke that they're trying to show these guys as this inferior team, and they're just jobbers now, and it's just, yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It just needs to happen, kind of like Bianca Belair. I just continue to also beat that drum. I'm sorry, it needs to happen.
Yep.
All right, let's see what else we got here. So, the broadcast team, I'm reading the description here. They narrated footage of Raquel Rodriguez being told she isn't medically cleared last week, only to have a pull apart brawl with Rhea Ripley, and then Dom made their entrance. So then let's see. Indy Hartwell came out with Candice LeRae to a really just flat reaction. The crowd, I got to say, was a tough crowd. They were not very generous with their reactions. Not a bad crowd, but also, we've been spoiled with the international crowds unfairly over the last probably 3-4 months since WrestleMania, of just the absolute dream crowds. But this was a tough crowd, I think, and this didn't help. The women's world champion of Rhea Ripley versus Indy Hartwell. This was a fast match, 3 minutes. Rhea Ripley beats Indy Hartwell. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, if they think that this is just going to cover the women's division and just, we got a Rhea match, like, no, we got a Rhea squash match. And like the most relevant I've seen Rhea like actually be challenged was when she kind of had that brawl with Raquel, where like it was size against size, and it was actually interesting to see them brawl for like 30 seconds. With this, it's just like, all right, like Candice and this other girl, like Indy Hartwell, like they're both very smaller wrestlers, and you just knew it was a squash match. And I mean, yeah, I guess you could see some of the highlights from Rhea and her dominate, but it wasn't anything that we needed to see. And I don't know, I think it was just to kill some time.
That, and I think you're right, that they could say, what are you talking about? Rhea's having matches? It's like, no, she's not. Like these are, and this is not on the Hulu version, which tells you what they value in terms of the importance of this. Yeah. You have your women's world champion, arguably the biggest star for the women in the entire company right now, and she's not even making the Hulu cut. I mean, like, how is this happening right now? It's really, I don't want to hear, well, they're trying to set her up and wait for. There are.
She wasn't even on SummerSlam.
I know that is just. I understand. Well, we don't want to just place her with anybody. Well, how about, we got to make sure it's the right star. Becky Lynch. Well, Becky Lynch and Rhea is going to happen. I understand that, and it should. But you're telling me that she can't help elevate new talent? You're telling me she can't, even if it's a no-name. You can help bring up somebody from NXT, introduce them like Indy Hartwell, build it up, like make it interesting, do video packages. It's not a difficult formula. It's perplexing. I for 4 months, they have not brought up anyone or had her work with anyone of significance. It's unbelievable. And I don't, it's getting more frustrating by the week, and they'll say, well, what are you talking about? She's having a match. She's getting exposure with Indy Hartwell. No, she's not, because it didn't make the Hulu cut. And also Indy Hartwell losing in 3 minutes. You think that is going to give her a rub? I mean, come on. So, all right. Yeah. Well,
frustrating.
It really is. Okay. So let's see. We got the Nakamura quote unquote interview, and when I heard about this, I'm like, oh, all right, we're actually going to have Nakamura show us what he knows in English, and it's not just going to be 1 or 2 words. And it was certainly more words, but all in Japanese, and that was a big disappointment to me. I was really hoping we'd get more other than, I want the world title. It's like, well, yeah, no kidding. It's implied when you attack the champion. That's what you're after, of course. So we got absolutely nothing outside of, I want the world title. It was all Japanese. And then Cole asked if Nakamura needed to kick Rollins in the head for it. And then Nakamura spoke again in Japanese. Eventually, Seth Rollins came out, and the crowd woke up here. And Rollins credited Nakamura for playing it to perfection last week and saying, you knocked me out. And it's all about the championship, but he's not hard to find. He's a fighting champion. All the just nauseating garbage that spews out of babyfaces' mouths. I'm sorry, I can't. It's not Seth's fault. It's just how they view babyfaces in WWE. But that said, it was a setup for the title match that, if you would imagine, is coming at Payback on September 2nd-ish, I think it is. And that was pretty much it, other than the interesting little tidbit of the handshake and Nakamura saying something to Rollins, and either Rollins knows Japanese or Shinsuke knows more English that he decided only to share with Seth. And I'm not sure what that was, but then he got a Kinshasa and knocked out Seth Rollins again. So I'll stop there and let you talk.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny that we're, all these times with Nakamura, we want him to speak more, and, he gets his opportunity, and it's kind of the equivalent of Asuka. He wants the world title. No one's ready for Asuka. It's just weird because I know that they have more ability to do a promo in English. I just don't know why WWE is handcuffing them, just because they speak their primary language is not English. So it's just something that will always be a mystery. But with Seth, and this is kind of a cool little promo that I liked. But with Seth, the only thing I'm worrying about, because Seth is one of my favorite wrestlers in today's time, is I'm kind of getting some vibes where he's getting a little stale, and it's not his fault. I just think, him as a babyface can only go so far, especially depending on how the story is going, because I was very excited for him, back in 2019 when he beat Brock at WrestleMania 35, and then his babyface run just was very stale after that, and then the fans kind of turned on him. I mean, now it's a different story. His character is more in depth. He's got his song to back him up. But I just think it's kind of the same promos every week and kind of the same fighting, every week with whoever it was. I mean, Finn was back-to-back pay-per-views, and it was kind of the same story, and there was nothing new. I mean, Seth can only do so much. He's very talented, but they gotta have better storytelling, because on his end, it's the same every week. And I mean, obviously that's sort of the point of a babyface, but he's a natural good heel. But I think with the right story and the right character, he does, provide a good babyface. But I just think they need to have something better in the storyline, because even whatever he said to Seth, at the end after the handshake, I mean, it could have only been like 3 or 4 words. It wasn't like a 15-second whisper. So I'm curious what the next couple of weeks will look like.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting matchup, and I don't know if they'll have any more verbal confrontations. I would imagine from here on out, it could be very one-sided, with Shinsuke doing sneak attacks, and that's the build until the pay-per-view. But yeah, the Seth Rollins kind of criticism, or rather just observation of him feeling a little stale. Yeah, I don't think it's to the point of people booing him, but the reaction isn't increasing, and I think he's a little too reliant on everyone doing sing along with him for his entrance music, which is it's as a viewer at home. I'm sorry, I'm getting really annoyed by it.
Don't apologize.
I'm done with it. Having them, of course, doing what they did to Finn Balor a month or two ago, of just totally going into business for themselves and not even letting Finn Balor speak was, I mean, that I still remember Kansas City. I won't forget it. I mean, you guys will forever be on my list, as Jericho once said. But I think that he is too reliant on that, and he's also too jokey all the time. I think that if he, added an element of seriousness, which we saw a little bit in the Finn Balor program, but I think maybe we need more of it. He's always just in a good mood. He's, no matter what happens, he seems like he's always, happy-go-lucky in these crazy outfits and sing along with me. And he's always laughing, which is, I don't know. I think that is happening too much, and there's not enough balance in his character. I think that it's not going to lead to people booing him yet, but I think it's leading to the staleness that you and I are noticing.
Yeah, and I mean, like with the staleness of his babyface, like he's really like, I mean, he works well with other people, but you can just tell when he's like around other people in the sense of like, oh, like let's be teammates or friends. It's kind of awkward. It doesn't fit. He's meant to be a solo act. I mean, even him and Cody, it's just they're the top 2 baby faces. They need to like distance themselves from each other. They don't need to really, knock on that door right now. But he does need to like, okay, he can show his kind of Joker laugh and whatever. But as soon as someone pisses him off, he needs to show like that dark side that he has in the ring, and and be dominant. I think he can do that in the ring and still kind of be his like flamboyant, dressing the way he wants to do, on the side, that's fine. But like it's kind of putting that, that second tier championship right on his shoulder too. Like, I understand nothing's going to top the Universal Championship, but like, it's not helping when he's kind of getting pushed around and having to wrestle every week and have to make an appearance every week. And then on top of him not showing like a lot of dominance, which again, it's not really his control. It's just, it makes me wonder sometimes.
They are, and I warned everyone, not everyone, I'm not, I'm not sitting here pretending I'm on some kind of throne, but my observation was that when he won the world title and they made the declaration that whoever won it's going to be here all the time and this and that, and they're going to be basically the anti-Roman. They didn't say that, but they pretty much said it. You immediately knew a babyface is winning, and you knew that person was going to be the opposite, the complete polar opposite of Roman Reigns, which I don't think is a good thing. I think that leads to overexposure. It leads to overcompensation. It just leads to, when you see something more, it means less. And for a whole other host of reasons I won't get into, it's just, I don't need Seth being overexposed. I actually don't even need him there every week. I feel like I really don't. I know some people, but Roman's never there. But doesn't it make it feel more special when the champion shows up every few weeks or whatever? And maybe Seth is there 3 out of 4 weeks or 2 out of 4 weeks of the month. I don't know. And then he's in like 4 or 5 segments backstage in the ring. He's always in a match. Like, I just think it's going to eventually lead to burnout with the fans. It's leading to overexposure now, and it's leading to the ultimate problem of kind of the feeling like he's stale. But go ahead. Any final thoughts? Because I want to move on to the women's match.
And I just like you said, I mean, he's always there, and he wants to be like a fighting champ. And like, again, not to go back a couple years, that's exactly what he said he wanted to be when he beat Brock after WrestleMania 35, because Brock wasn't there every week and he wanted to be a present champion. It's just like, you don't necessarily need to do that every week, come and do your promos and stuff, but he's just being overexposed, and he must have an amazing like training routine and eating healthy, because I don't know the amount of times that he wrestles, and he's only got injured that like one main time from his knee from back in 2015. It's a shocker that he hasn't, been overused.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is the real life wear and tear, not just storyline overexposure, on camera exposure, but he is truly, beating himself, his body to the core. This could lead, and I, I don't need to tell them that. I'm sure they know, but physics are physics. Being a human is being a human. Like, it's just leading to a higher risk of injury and burnout for him, as a person off camera. So there's also that risk. So at some point, his body's going to tell him to slow the hell down, or an injury could and might happen if he continues to run his body like this. So there is that risk as well. I don't like this theory they've adopted, that they need to be the complete opposite of Roman, being there all the time. Everyone gets a shot at the title. All you have to do is ask. I'm in every segment. It's too much. As much as I like Seth and I respect him, I don't like the philosophy they've adopted for what the world heavyweight champion should be. I don't dislike all the elements, but there's just fundamentally a few things that I completely disagree with of how they've presented it. And again, it's not Seth. It could be anyone holding the belt. It's just how they feel that championship should be presented. But all right, Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus, I'll just stop there and let you talk about it.
Yeah. At first I was kind of shocked that they, in the beginning, they didn't have that as the main event, just because that was going to be one of the top matches for SummerSlam before it got pulled off the shelf. And then I saw the match, and it made sense why it wasn't the main event. You can tell, that, Trish, yes, we know that she's up in age. She hasn't, she's not an everyday wrestler anymore, but it kind of showed here, for a few of her spots, especially trying to do that handstand, by the turnbuckle with Becky. She had to do it more than once. And, especially just going like outside of the ring and, going into the crowd, everything, you knew that her low minion was going to show up. And it's just kind of interesting, like I think, again, this is kind of not really done wonders for Becky so much. I think it should have just been kind of a one-off match at a pay-per-view, either SummerSlam or the one before that. But I kind of forget about, as much as, they had a promo like every week. I kind of forget, Becky's on Raw, and I forget how big Becky is as a wrestler, because she's been stuck with this, stale storyline with Trish. And, I think it's more on Trish's character, because, she just didn't seem convincing at all. But yeah, I was just kind of happy that the match got done. But even at the end of the match, with her little minion, I can't remember her name.
Zoey Stark.
Yeah, Zoey Stark. She came in, helped her out. So I'm just like, okay, is it actually really done, or are we going to go another week at this?
Oh no, there's another week coming. As Adam Pearce geniusly, brilliantly came up with a foolproof plan of putting these two in a steel cage to prevent outside interference, which we know has 100% success rate with steel cages and no one interfering. So the genius move by Adam Pearce, instead of just saying, you know what, hey, anyone that gets involved in any capacity throughout the entirety of the match is suspended, he decides to go with a steel cage. And I know it's all marketing and this and that. Oh my God, a steel cage. Well, now no one can interfere. I mean, like, but with a steel cage, like, I know this is kind of off topic. I wanted them to change the whole dynamic of a steel cage match for years, because you literally have a door. Like, I just don't get it, why they think that they're trapped in there. Even a Hell in a Cell, there's a door, and it makes it. And I just don't think that should be a way that you can win either. You need pinfall, submission, or go over the top of it. You don't just go out of a door. I mean, that's just, I don't know. It's just lazy writing. And I think that you shouldn't even be able to escape. If you escape, because to be honest, how is a method of victory the opposite of what the intent of the structure is for? Meaning, like, this is supposed to keep you together. It's supposed to prevent anyone from outside interference. And yet the way you can win is by doing the exact opposite, but just by running away, you win. Like, and walking through a door, you win with the referee opening it for you. All you have to do is walk through a door. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't even like the over the top. I would live with the over the top victory. I don't like it, but the through the door thing is preposterous. I mean, it's ridiculous.
They should just bring back the Inferno match.
Yeah.
That'll keep him in the ring.
Yeah. Surround it with fire. Yeah, seriously. Yes. I mean, I don't care what they have to do. I mean, to me, it's just a total exposure of the business. That's really what it comes down to, is just a complete exposure of the business. And I hate it, but that's what's going to happen, because, as we know, Trish Stratus ended up. She did show her age a little bit, but you know what? I give her credit, because at her age, she didn't have to do this. It may be a bit of a stale story, but I respect what she's done, turning heel and going on a run and having one last run with her career and working with top talent. It may not be super interesting from an on-camera perspective, and generally fans kind of going, I'm ready for this to be over. But for her, good for her. I mean, and I respect her ability to take bumps at that age. She could have left her career alone and not come back, and we would have viewed her just the same as a legend in the business. And so I'm looking at it through that lens, but I mean, I agree. It's not exactly going to be a Trish Stratus and Sasha Banks classic, right? Like, no. It's just, it's not, and I didn't expect it to be, but we're going to get part 2 of this, or part 3 of it, whatever it is now, and it's going to be a steel cage. I don't know if it's happening next week or whatever, but I would imagine at Payback. So yeah, it's not over here. All right, let's move on. Let's see. We're going to get Cody Rhodes and Finn Balor. And this one went, I feel like this one went a long time. Yeah, it was nearly 15 minutes. Cody Rhodes didn't end up beating Finn Balor, but after Dom attacked Cody, and then Priest joined in, Sami Zayn came out with a chair and hit Priest with it. He hit Dom with it, but he ended up getting taken out by JD McDonagh, who came out and made the save, and they completely decimated Sami Zayn. What did you think about this?
I hate to kind of be that negative person, but like I'm not so much a huge fan of Cody Rhodes. Like I like his story and everything, but I think WWE just kind of shoved it in her face too much all the time, especially I could go off on the 3 matches with Brock without actually a story behind that. So I kind of like seeing, Cody not always on top after every match. So, and it kind of resurrected the Judgment Day, as much as I I'm not a fan of the Judgment Day either. I just, at least they kind of sparked it a little bit, so there's something to look forward, next week.
Yeah, and I think actually Judgment Day kind of needed that bounce back, given how they've been going, and there's cracks in the armor and there's tension, and now they look, at least for the moment, they look like a cohesive unit with the addition of JD McDonagh. Again, who I think is going to be the ultimate reason that Finn and Damian split. But overall, I didn't have a problem with this. I mean, Finn Balor and Cody Rhodes, you can't go wrong from just a pure wrestling perspective. You just can't. But I will say, if Finn Balor can't take, a guy that can take any move and make anything look good, if he can't take the Crossroads in a way that makes it look devastating for him, we need to just ditch the Crossroads finishing maneuver. I'm sorry.
It's funny you mentioned that, because like the last couple Crossroads that he's done, I thought about like all the times that you're talking about, because like it doesn't make sense anymore, because he does inflict damage on himself. But I don't know if you've noticed, the last couple of them he has tweaked it a little bit. It doesn't look like he really like is damaging his opponent anymore, but it does look like the angle is a little bit different. I'm like,
yes.
I wonder if Cody is listening to this podcast and going by his word there.
You never know. I really have no idea who is, right? Like, it could be. Maybe. I'm not going to pretend that my ego is definitely not that big. I doubt it, but it is strange that they have implemented a few things that just look like crap that I've been harping on over the last several months. That said, though, I think there's just too much torque. There's too much room for error. The move, even if it's executed to perfection, still doesn't look that devastating. It's not as bad as the big ending with Big E or anything, but like, Cody, I would take the Cody cutter as his finish. He already has that built in. Fine. Okay. Diamond Dallas Page has done it. Randy Orton's done it, among others. But like the Cody cutter is a believable finish and looks way better and is less risky and actually looks devastating versus the Cody, the Crossroads, which has too much torque, too much turning, too much twisting, that if you ever put that maneuver in slow motion would look like absolute garbage. In terms of just no way this is hurting his opponent. I'm sorry. I just it's looking worse and worse by the week to me. But this match itself, no problem with the physicality here. The beatdown of Sammy and Cody Rhodes looked good. It made sense. It furthers JD McDonagh with the whole Judgment Day, and it makes you wonder when Kevin Owens is going to come out, or who is going to come out to eventually help even the odds here, as it's now a 4-on-2 situation. So any final thoughts or wrap up on Monday Night Raw?
Yeah, when I think after that match, I saw something on Twitter. I don't know who posted it. It could have been you, because I follow you on Twitter, but it was like a for Survivor Series, because they had the War Games last year, and then I think it was Judgment Day, including JD, and then I think it was like, Seth, Sammy, KO, and Cody versus them, and I was like, ooh, that would be a good Survivor Series War Games matchup.
I'm all for it. I will take the War Games anytime over the whole exhibition. Imaginary Raw versus SmackDown that is just completely ridiculous. The only criticism I have of the War Games is that the match doesn't start until everyone's in it. So like everything that happens beforehand doesn't mean anything, even if there's a quote unquote an advantage, because you can't eliminate anybody because the match hasn't started. So like I don't know. That's the one criticism, but I will still take that over the imaginary brand wars. The other thing I meant to ask, do you know why, or anybody out there know why we got a replacement of Kevin Patrick this past week? We got Michael Cole, Wade Barrett on Raw.
Well, I know there was not huge, but there was an announcement of them switching it now. Like, I think Michael Cole is going to be on both brands now. They're kind of switching it up a little bit, and I think they were just having like the SmackDown color commentator and the Raw, and they're switching there. But I don't know. I miss what's his name? He used to be a NFL player.
Pat McAfee.
Oh man, he was amazing. And obviously I miss like the guys like who's the guy from the early 2000s? Oh, Jim Ross. Like, it's just because it goes off on what you were saying. Like ever since you were like, you know that the person's not going to win the title when the announcer, says, oh, they're going to win it here. They're going to win it here. And now, as I was saying, I'm watching all these like old pay-per-views or PLEs, and I hear it even from other announcers, and I'm like, wow, like the guy can't get it out of my head now.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Like I'm more of I like to notice those things anyway, but it's funny how they why they think that's a good process. It's not.
It's not. But they would say, well, you're supposed to bring them into the moment, that you're supposed to, try to push what the fans are thinking could happen, into reality. It's like, but the announcers are at least on air, not in real life, but they are just so oblivious to the product, at least on camera, that they're not very intelligent on camera to what is going to happen next. I mean, you listen to the announcers from move to move, from, somebody hits a power move and they're like, oh, they're not going to get up from that. It's like, they say just stupid crap, but that's just part of telling the story. And I understand that. But for the finish specifically, man, and Jim Ross, one of the greatest announcers, if not the greatest announcer of all time, has been guilty of it and still guilty of it. It's just this, it's an innate itch that they can't help but scratch. And I don't know who started it or why it's continuing to happen, but it totally ruins finishes for me. And it continues to. I don't know. They think they're doing a good job by taking the crowd on a ride, and it's like the second you hear Michael Cole say, we're going to have a new champion, you're like, all right, kick out, like 100% of the time.
Yeah, so, and it's funny because like their acting skill is actually very good, because like when I hear them say like, all like they think that wrestler is going to win the title, I'm like, wow, you're an idiot. And I genuinely think you're an idiot in real life too, because you're sounding like it as an announcer. I know you're playing a character, but I feel like that's you in real life too. But it's just, yeah, it's hopefully maybe that someday they can change it, but I doubt it.
I just think it's baked into their psyche. I don't think it's going anywhere, because they feel that's just what they say. I don't even think they give it two thoughts. I don't even think they've ever thought about this as a bad idea, that they continue to say this every time there's a false finish that they're trying to make the crowd believe is the finish. It's one of the biggest pet peeves of all time for me, because the finish is the most exciting part of the whole matchup. But anyway, I digress off my soapbox. Any final thoughts or anything else that you wanted to mention here before we wrap?
No, man, it was a pleasure to catch up with you. I'm glad to be back on the podcast again, and hopefully I'll be back on this in a couple months.
Absolutely, yeah, and I appreciate you coming back on Patreon. And guys, if you want to go on Patreon, good time to do it. Patreon.com/WWE Podcast. You guys can get on the show too. And Ian, it's been a blast talking with you. It's been too damn long. Let's not make it a year this time, like you said. Let's.
Yeah, we'll make it every couple months, man. We'll fit into your schedule.
Absolutely, and yours too. So you enjoy the rest of your night, and thanks again.
All right, take care.
All right, it's time to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, happyhippo.com. So if you guys haven't checked this out, you got to go to happyhippo.com, because they have some of the highest quality kratom products that I've ever come across. And if you guys aren't familiar with what kratom is, it's an herbal substance that has many different uses, everything from a balanced mind to energy. It can help you relax. And my wife and I, over the last couple of weeks, have tried out some of their products, and I have to say it has improved her sleep specifically. She's very anxious and her mind runs at night, and it has helped her fall asleep and stay asleep. She actually was using one of the powders that comes in a pouch from Happy Hippo, and just dropped it into her water, and off she went, and she was just she was very happy. Let me just put it that way. And so myself, during the workday, if you guys didn't know, I have a big boy job. I work in contract management, and I need that balance. I need the energy during the day, and they have something called Hyper Hippo and an energy shot. Those energy shots come in those little tiny bottles. You guys are familiar with it from other brands that use that type of packaging, but there's nothing like this. All right. This energy shot, I take it, easy to take, and within minutes, I feel the effects. There's no massive crash after I take it either, which is a huge deal, right? How many energy drinks have you taken and coffee have you drank throughout the day that just leads to the massive crash? Well, this doesn't, and it's an all-natural herb. And I'm telling you right now, it will help you get through your day. It can help you relax, depending on the type of product you're looking for. Happy Hippo delivers. And guess what? Right now, if you have an order of 200 or more, you can get free next day FedEx shipping And also their stuff tastes great. So check out happyhippo.com. Support the WWE podcast and Happy Hippo. And do yourself a favor as well, guys. I'm telling you right now, if it can help my wife go to sleep, for somebody as anxious as she is and as somebody that needs as much energy as I do during the day to do this podcast and to do my job during the day, check out happyhippo.com, whether you're trying to relax or whether you need energy or balance during the day. happyhippo.com.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.